If somebody ever walks into your shop with this much hair, it can be very intimidating, right? Like, where are you even supposed to begin at? What I really recommend that you do is go ahead and section off the hair from the sides and the top. Now it looks like a lot less hair. Now we're ready to debulk all of this hair off. And the clipper that I'm going to be choosing for that is going to be the Wahl Seniors. I really love using this clipper whenever I'm debulking because it's super powerful, so it really goes through the hair with ease. And I am using a number 2 guard right now. I start off with digging in at the bottom. Then as I work my way up his head, I'm going to be tilting my clipper out and also going off the head in this direction because I really want to ensure that I leave enough weight near the parotid ridge and in the back area to build up some more weight. And whenever you're debulking, you don't really have to worry about making the bottom part perfect because all this part down here is going to be faded out anyways. And to really ensure that I leave a lot of length within the parotid ridge, I'm going to go ahead and use my shear over comb just to really allow me to debulk some more of that length off. Now with that debulked, I'm going to begin this taper. I'm going to be using one of my trimmers that is not zero gap to create my first guideline. And in case you're not aware of it, a taper just stays within the temple area and in the back area by the neck below the occipital bone. On him, we're going to be doing more of a mid taper. And the way that I was able to determine where the mid taper was going to go on him was by locating the parotid ridge, which is right here. And rule of thumb, the sideburn area typically starts off right here in this little divot by the ear. So by having those 2 reference points, we know now that the midpoint on him would be right here. Now I'm switching to my Babyliss. I really love using my Babyliss because of the little notches on the lever. And right now I'm going to be placing my lever all the way at the end on the last notch to create my first section, making that section about 1/2 inch wide. Now with that created, we have a little line right here. So we're simply going to close the lever all the way, which means the top blade and the bottom blade are closer to each other, and it's going to allow you to cut more hair. And now instead of using the full blade, I'm going to be angling my clipper out, only using the corner of it to really be able to dig in and start taking that line out. But as I work my way up within that section, I'm going to open my lever 1 notch at a time, going up a little bit higher. And I'm going to continue doing that until my lever is on the last notch, which is essentially what we begin with. And now that just helped us fade out that line while creating gradiency within that section. Now I'll switch into the number 1 guard, and I'm just going to be repeating the same steps all over again. Once again, only making sure to use the corner of the blade. If you use a full blade like this, you're really going to run the risk of pushing the fade up way too high or cutting into an area you don't want to cut into. Now you're going to have a little distinct line between the 0 and the number 1, which is where the half guard comes into play. And if you guessed it, we're going to begin with the same system again, using the corner to really dig in and erase that line in between. Now with that bottom section faded out, now we're at the point where we began at. Because we know in this area we used the number 2 to be able to debulk, and we left off with the number 1 in this area. So it would only make sense to come in with a 1.5 guard to take out the line right in between those 2. Also notice how this whole time I've just been placing my clipper flat on his head and just sliding up and down. I'm not sitting here flicking out. If you sit there and flick out, especially as a beginner, you're going to be very inconsistent using that method. So I really recommend you just let the clipper sit down flat on the head and just slide up and down, and that's going to help you have way more control. And now for the back. I really want the taper on the side to flow evenly into the back. So we're not going to be doing a low taper on him. We're going to be doing a mid taper. And the way you're going to be able to determine where the mid taper goes on him is by locating the occipital bone back here and locating where the hair naturally stops growing at. So the midway point on him for the taper would be right in this area. And of course, we're going to be repeating the same steps. But this time, you just really want to make sure that you don't go past the occipital bone. Notice on this back area, I'm angling my clipper in this direction. The reason for that is because most of this hair back here grows this way. And one of the things about cutting hair is that you really have to be able to read that direction of the hair and cut against it. But notice how I'm not fading out all the way out this way. I want to leave the hair right here dark enough to where I can still edge it up, and it's really going to make it pop out once we get done with it. And once again, notice what angle of the blade I'm using. I'm using the beveled edge on the guard to allow the blade to sit flat and just slide up and down. Once again, cutting against the hair. That way you can ensure that everything is going to be smooth and even as possible. Now with that rough sketch faded out, let's go ahead and create the edging. And to be able to edge somebody up, I'm simply going to begin right behind the ear, create my first guideline right on the arch of the ear. That way now I have a guideline to work my way this way and a guideline to work my way down. You always want to make sure to give yourself reference points, because now with this guideline, I can determine how far in I want to push the edge up. And of course at the beginning, you can begin by not digging in too much, but that really doesn't look as crispy. So instead of angling my trimmer out this way, I'm going to angle it inwards just a little bit more. That way I can slightly dig in deeper. And this is definitely something you want to take your time playing with, because you never want to push in too deep. So work with little increments at a time until you find that perfect depth. So now with this faded, let's just go ahead and take down the beard. I hope he wanted to take it down. And just like that, we got the whole fade done. Really doing the tapering, really giving him a better silhouette for his head shape. Adding some more weight near the crown area, keeping the curls longer on top. Now the fade really flows a lot better. Then with him having natural curls too, the haircut just really seems to pop out that much more. And of course, we have a little bit lighter areas right here from where they highlighted his hair. But overall, I really feel like this haircut compliments him. But what do y'all think? But if you would like to see shorter daily tutorials, then be sure to go check out my TikTok.